Well, good morning, everybody. As you watch this animation here of the last, 10 hours or so of national radar, I'm going to talk to you about what we're going to talk about in today's forecast video. We still have our pair of upper-level lows that continue to slowly progress across the country, and this is going to bring to light some of the struggles we're having right now with weather forecasting. I'm going to show you the skill scores, and the dropout in the GFS has been quite remarkable. I think it's the largest dropout that I've seen in many years. And we need to talk about maybe a reason for why and just understand what's going on there. Then I'm going to show you kind of around the country where there's expected to be some very heavy precipitation, southern plains, Gulf Coast, but where we're also going to see some wide open planting windows continue in the central and western Corn Belt. We need to talk about the soil moisture issues in parts of those places. We're going to get into a frost discussion, which again is not much. It's not much to talk about given how warm things are. And even despite the upper level low spinning over the eastern Corn Belt yesterday, it was cold and wet, but we didn't hit frost. I mean, it was just a miserable weekend in this area. But I'm going to talk to you a bit about the western United States reservoir storage, and then I'll get out there and do a subseasonal forecast. But I'm going to be honest with you. I do not feel as though we have strong enough signals to make conclusive arguments about the second half of May, and even where I think we're going to get into June. I'll remind you of the things we need to watch, but we'll kind of watch that. And at the very end, I'll give you a brief kind of global update. So if you've been watching this animation and wondering what the heck's going on, you have your two upper level lows. There's one here and there's one there. And in the middle, we had bright sunshine, clear, beautiful day yesterday right through this whole area. And so we had a wide-ranging diurnal temperature fluctuation. And at night, we had our temperature inversion set up. And this is the radar beam interacting with that low-level temperature inversion. And what it's doing here is you're getting a whole lot of non-meteorological echo, clear air echo, that happens when you have strong inversions setting up overnight. But outside of that, you've got precip coming through parts of Montana, desperately needed. And we're going to be talking about the setup of this system that could add even a little bit more snow to the Rocky Mountains here going forward. But I want to show you on satellite what this looked like yesterday afternoon. I mean, just take a look at how crystal clear it was in the midsection of the country while this upper level low just continued to spin here over the eastern Corn Belt. And I was under it. We had a soccer tournament again this weekend, and I broke out on it's crazy, on May the 3rd and May the 4th. I had my full winter parka out, because we play at this complex in Rantoul, Illinois, which has no wind block. So the winds are always strong there. And with the rain and temperatures hovering in the mid 40s, it was pretty nasty out. Now these are our two systems, and these are the ones we talked about a lot extensively last week and where they were going and what they were up to. But I wanted to show you the effect of the cloud cover in this area. Because if you look back at the temperatures yesterday afternoon on Sunday, underneath that cloud cover, I mean, we had parts of Ohio, parts of Michigan, all of Indiana, a big chunk of Kentucky, and eastern half of Illinois tucked under cloud and very, very cool. It goes one side of the state to the other, the temperature could drop. I'm thinking about Illinois here, over 20 degrees. And meanwhile, we had temperatures in parts of eastern Montana touch 90, and just incredible distribution of temperatures given this highly amplified pattern of one deep trough here, another one there, and in the middle, a larger ridge. That's part of that omega pattern. Got to be careful calling it a block just because it's not going to last long enough. But over the weekend, this is what it did in terms of total precip. In fact, I just started recording here after 6. Yeah, we got the new data in. So there's one low sitting and spinning, and here's the other. So desperately needed moisture, in my opinion, up in parts of Montana, coming down here to parts of New Mexico and Colorado as well. That's 24-hour observation. This is 48. So you go back over the last 48 hours, and then you can see 72. So this would be our entire weekend's worth of rainfall. And then we go back there even farther, and you've got the 7-day, the 10-day, and the 14-day. And I want to come back to this because we're about to see this whole region get hit with very heavy rainfall. We're going to add a lot more to here as well. And these are places where we've seen, just truly tremendous amounts of rainfall that have come through and created historic flooding in places, especially right in through here. Now, remember, earlier in April, it was all in the Mid-South. It was along the Ohio River. And then at the end of April and now the beginning of May, it's moved back here over to the kind of part of the headwaters of the Red River. I mean, this is really more mid-Red River Valley here. So let's just take a look at what we've got. This is the National Weather Service's all hazards weather map. We have a broad area from New Mexico through Texas, Oklahoma, getting into Arkansas and Louisiana. This under flood watch. This will likely continue to expand farther into the south and east all the way to the Mississippi River very soon. Whereas on the backside of it, we're going to talk about snow coming down the Rocky Mountains. We'll get to that in just a few moments as well. Outside of that, couple of areas of patchy fog, red flag warning still up in the Red River Valley of the north here. And we'll take a look at the frost threat that may hit parts of the country surrounding the Willamette Valley. This is all going to be elevation driven here. Same thing for Northern California. But if you take a look at the upper atmosphere, there's our two lows. And so the main flow of the atmosphere, which these have been cut off from, is way up here, way far to the north. So therefore, when these are cut off, they will just sit and spin, and there's nothing to steer them. So it just takes a while for them to move, and they often meander very slowly and are therefore quite unpredictable overall. If you look at the surface winds this morning, this is how things take shape. So near surface, this is lower atmosphere. So one low is still here, but do you see what's already happening on the back side of this? This is where the flow is kind of going around up into the ridge that's tucked in between. One low there and one low there. Amazing to see that, right? But what'll be interesting is tomorrow. Once we get into tomorrow, take a look at how much we've tapped into, like Bay of Campeche, Gulf of Mexico moisture that's just streaming into Texas as the next upper level low comes through. Even a day from now, the one that's currently occupying the eastern Cornbelt barely moves to the edge of Lake Erie, western side of Lake Erie. So that's what's challenging about these cutoff lows, how slow they move and how persistent they could be on extremely heavy rainfall. So over the next 7 days, the newest WPC update looks something like this, and you find this very narrow corridor in through here that's expected to get a bunch of rainfall. Whereas to the north of it, wide open planting windows have just emerged in this area. Plus the heat that's about to come into this region is going to be something that we're going to have to talk about. The northeast continues to get soaked by the lead wave that's moving in that direction, and we're going to talk in a moment about snow that will be coming down the Rocky Mountains here. We're going to see how far into the plains some of that snow is going to get. But I wanted to take you a quick trip around the country to show you a few things. WPC, if we kind of focus in, adding another 1 to 2 inches of rain in through here, a place that's received in some locations over 15 inches of rainfall in the last few weeks. This is going to continue to make the flood threat just terrible. We've lost a lot of wheat fields here. We've flooded out just crops. I don't have to specify any. They're just flooded out. We're expecting to see 5 to 7 inches of rain in Louisiana, Mississippi, and that's why I think these flood watches are going to continue to expand in this direction. If we go a little bit farther into the southeast, we need the rain in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. This has been one area that's been very, very dry as of late, so to get moisture back into this area is going to be critical. But taking a look at what's been so challenging with this forecast, we land here. Now, this is what I wanted to talk to you about. Again, this comes from my friend, Dr. Ryan Maui, brilliant scientist. Very much appreciate the work he does for the meteorological community. He has 3 models on his skill scores. The blue is European, GFS here, AIFS in black. And I just want you to see something. It is normal as we get into spring and summer to see a skill score drop. Maybe not that much, but it is normal to see a skill score drop. But beginning back in mid-April, the GFS has just tanked. Now, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's a data assimilation issue. I don't know if it's the loss of some of the NOAA weather balloons that are supposed to be launched in the midsection of the country. In other words, is this a consequence of the government efficiency things where NOAA's taken a huge hit? In fact, there's a budget proposal for another 25% cut to all of NOAA. But this is going to create a lot of problems, in my opinion, in ag forecasting, not having the utility of one of the world's best forecast models, the GFS, running at its top performance. And just so you understand, we share weather data. I mean, even at the heart of the Cold War, okay, the United States and Russia still shared weather data. And we've been sharing weather data since World War II. And therefore, the European agency, the European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasting, they rely on NOAA's data, as we rely on theirs, to initiate these global models. Now, there are just times when the models all fall off, okay? But this seems to be correlated well with some of the recent changes we've seen in data collection. And I'm concerned about it, and I'm going to be concerned about it because as a meteorologist, you wake up every day trying to be as accurate and skillful as you can be, and it's always a question about what tools you have at your disposal to do that. This is also going to affect the artificial intelligence forecasting because remember, this is based on historical climatological data. And the model as it's run, it takes the initial conditions, which is, in other words, what's observed, and packs it into this massive table, honestly. And it looks up historically antilogs and analogs and attempts to basically recreate the future forecast on a system that uses historical weather. Well, if you don't have good initial conditions, your forecast is going to be bad. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you because it's what we still have, but this is the position of the upper level height pattern for the next 15 days on average. And I see, again, a lot of circumglobal ridges. Okay, see them all through here, and that one starts there. Now, what's interesting about this is that we are blocked up over Europe. Okay, so there's a high over low, and we need to take a look at the end of this video what this can mean for some cold temperatures in and around the Black Sea. This is going to make for very interesting precipitation patterns across Europe. But in the United States, our jet is going fast because the low is north of the high. So this one spins like this one spins like that, and it kind of accelerates the air in between. And as a result, we're going to be getting, strong flow with just these weak little features cutting off underneath. I'll talk to you more about that one in just a few moments. But if you take a look at this at the bigger, broader picture of what's going on in the atmosphere, I'm going to come back to what I stressed all last week. When we look at our atmospheric angular momentum, so again, we're looking at the motion of the atmosphere with respect to the motion, the rotation of Earth. We are still way down here with very low global atmospheric angular momentum. And what that means is that the atmosphere it's more prone, especially in summer, which we're approaching in the northern hemisphere, to send the jet north and to block it up into ridges. And what I'm talking about are these. And I'm very concerned about those coming back at the wrong time of year. I'm talking about pollination and just after. So to show you what this looks like, I'd like to run out the European model, and I'd like to show you the upper level winds. So there's our pair of cutoff lows. I'll show you the severe weather threat and the heavy rains. You notice that all the way by the time we get to Friday, where's the jet? I mean, it's way up here to the north, and we continue to get these little weak features that sneak through. So we need to look at the rainfall and severe weather threat out of that one. Then as we go into the weekend, this is Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm going to be watching early next week for that. Now that trough seems to be a robust feature in the models, and where it's ejecting out of the mountains is pretty far to the north. And I got to see what that's going to do for the week 2 precipitation pattern. So keep that in mind as I get out there, because it seems to be that feature is showing up in the forecast models and in the ensemble. See it right there? That's next Tuesday. So larger ridge east is going to be warm. This trough coming into the northwest is going to bring in unsettled weather, maybe some more snow for the western U.S. mountains. And then I think this whole corridor is going to be showing up wet because of that particular trough coming through. Now, will it dig farther to the south? I do not know. Will it stay mostly in the northwest? That's the current thinking at this point. But the reality is you take the next 2 weeks and shove them together. Until that system comes into the northwest, I don't have a whole lot to talk about for the west. But we do have this cutoff low here, the one that's leaving into the northeast there, and then a wide open. Look at this. This is the next 2 weeks looking at an area where the precipitation anomalies are very, very much on the dry side. And I expect some places in here to not to measure anything in the next 2 weeks at all. And why this is so important is because of our current, top 16 inches of soil moisture percentile. Now, I've got some folks in here that are going to be just incredibly happy to shut the rain down. They're going to be these folks, okay? And possibly a little bit into the northeast after the current system goes through. But I'm sure I got folks watching in parts of Kansas, Missouri, northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, everybody in Nebraska, parts of South Dakota, pockets of North Dakota, pockets here of Montana that are like, hang on, man, we have already been extremely dry for a while. And to not get the moisture is going to be a problem. But you can see the issue to the south. Why do we have the flood watches out for this area? The ground's saturated. And so as you look at it, our last 30 days in terms of a percent of normal, this is how things shake down. Let's do a quick west to east kind of diagnosis of this map. If we start off here in the western United States, I want to show you the California reservoir system. So, it's been drier lately. Yes, drier lately, but this isn't uncommon for this time of year. And I want to point out that right now the reservoir storage in California, look at the stats down here in the bottom, 32.6 million acre feet of water. That's 117% of historical averages. I mean, those reservoirs were replenished this winter. Farther to the north, and I'm going to link this for you because I'm not going to click on all of these. You can use the what's called the hydromet teacup diagrams to go in and look at different storage basins. So if we click on the Snake River, you can see, wow, American Falls 97% full right now. Jackson Lake 91%. You can see just how full the reservoirs are according to the teacup diagrams. I don't know, let's go to Eastern Oregon just as another one here. Warm Springs, 98%. I mean, just have a look. Now, there are a few areas that I think we need to keep an eye on. I went to Yakima here, Cle Elum at 52%, Rimrock at 64%. We need to watch these carefully just to understand our evaporative demand stress later this year. So I'm going to make sure I link this so that you've got it. It's a great website, especially if you're in the Northwest, to be monitoring this. But if we just take a look, this is what our last 30 days have been. And I've heard from many of you in Montana especially that you see the map looking like this, and it looks as though most of Montana, unless you're getting farther to the north and west, has been good on moisture, but there have been some places that have been exceptionally dry. Snake River Valley, exceptionally dry as we work our way into this the end of this 30-day time period. Okay, so just take a closer look at these maps. If we then come over to the north central United States, I'm specifically focusing on the Cornbelt, Nebraska, extremely dry. Getting into a corner of Minnesota, western Iowa. Then you can see northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. You get over into parts of Michigan. Anywhere around those regions, I mean, in southern Illinois, we've got places that are 2 to 3 times their normal rainfall just in the last 30 days. Same thing for a big swath of Missouri back into Oklahoma and Texas. And if you just kind of slide a little bit farther into the southeast, because we've been looking a lot at Texas, so I'm just going to get down here. I told you these rains that are forecast to come through here and into Florida are critical given how dry it's been in this part of our cotton belt down here in southern Georgia, and then all of the ag that goes through parts of Florida. But take note of the dryness that continues to line the Carolina coast. So we come back to our map again, right? And I'm expecting to see these flood watches continue to extend farther into the south and east, and I want you to know it's going to be quite wet in the northeast as well. But the severe weather threat over the next 3 days, today, it's way back in southwestern Texas. Tomorrow, southern Texas, eastern Texas. And then we get out here to, Wednesday, just a broader area of general thunderstorm risk. But the lead wave is giving us a marginal risk into parts of the northeast, mid-Atlantic and northeast in the next couple days. But take a look at the CPC excessive rainfall outlook. Tomorrow, we've got a large area of moderate risk down here, so we need to be very aware of what's going on. So to have a look at that, let's go to the high-res NAM model and just get a sense of how these events are kind of taking shape. So as I play this forward, this is working our way through the rest of the day on Monday. Look at the snow coming through this part of the Rockies. One low sits and spins, moves through Indiana, Ohio, out ahead of it. Heavy, relatively widespread rains throughout parts of the northeast. And then by the time you get into this afternoon and this evening, getting into the overnight hours, watch right here. Severe storms coming out of western Texas. And you can see moving across the Red River Valley of the south. And we see that heavy rain by the time we get into Wednesday, through Tuesday into Wednesday, just spreading into the southern parts of the Mississippi Valley. On the back side of that, we are talking about snow right here that we cannot ignore. And I thought it'd be kind of interesting just to show you what, actually, let's do this total precip first. That's from the high-res NAM. Pretty heavy rainfall. Let's go ahead and have a look at that snow. This is from the NAM again. If we just have a look there in Colorado, we've got quite a bit of snow coming out into this area. I also looked at the European model, just zoomed in on Colorado. And I want to remind you that resolution often plagues us as we get up to the mountains because it doesn't really show us where the edge of the snow is really going to be because of elevation, just due to the resolution of the model, like I said. So I thought I would show you something I've been working on. This is just this is not live on the internet, but I built something that hit the National Weather Service API, and it kind of gives you your current conditions. This is in Denver, and there's no active alerts for Denver, but it kind of gives you the written forecast down here. And then I made a quick time series of the precipitation probabilities and temperatures and whatnot. But what I found fascinating was if you go from Denver and just, pick a spot a little bit, farther into the mountains, it takes usually a second to hit the API. So you can see I got my little spinner up here going. But what was interesting was just, where are we? Coal Creek, all right? They do have a winter storm watch that's been issued, and I found this fascinating. If you look at Tuesday, slight chance of thunderstorms, then a slight chance of thunderstorms, rain, and snow. Thunderstorms, rain, and snow. Then you can see they've got some accumulations of, 1 to 3 inches, 3 to 7 inches. But it's amazing just to see snow, rain, thunderstorms all put into the same forecast. And that's what happens in these mountains. We're going to be getting convective type snow out of this. So I just wanted to show you this now. I'm working with Nutrien to get this live so that all of you can have access to it. And we're going to add a whole lot of great things to this, including better radar and all that kind of good stuff. But since we're in the Colorado Rockies, I thought I'd show you the upper Colorado Basin snowpack. because of the warmth lately. We came off of a point. Let me just get rid of that. Can you see the blue line? We came off of a point where we were sitting pretty good on snowpack, but right now the depletion, look at this down here. We're at about 50% of our typical snowpack for this time of year. Now, it's supposed to come down, as you can see, but I just wanted to show you that we're on the very bottom of the distribution when looking back over the last 10 years. Okay, sorry about that, but I wanted to show you some new tools we're working on. Now let's compare the GFS to the European. We've already seen through Monday into Tuesday. So there's the heavy rains, there's the snow we need to talk about. Let's get out there past Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday. See the rain spreading heavily down here farther to the south, more of Arkansas, getting into the whole of the southern tier of the United States there. Then we get into Friday, the front tries to clear into the northeast. And then what I'm watching after that is May 11th, 12th, and 13th, the next deep wave coming into the northwest. Now, you saw this about 10 minutes ago when I showed you the upper level high pattern, and we're going to be watching a deeper low come through there. And it could be, it's in both models, it could be a real precip maker for parts of the northwest, including Montana. Now, total snowfall, let's just add it up real quick. Let's give you a 10-day snowfall. Look at the end of this, 11th, 12th, 13th. See that coming through there? Can't ignore that. So we do have some more snow coming for the Rockies, and we took a closer look at Colorado a moment ago. All right, total precip, and then we'll get toward the end of this video. Let's add it all up from the European. That's 10 days. I mean, I got places with nothing. Then I have that 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th system hitting Montana, which needs to get this moisture. So this is an area of needed moisture, and that is an area of needed moisture. These folks are going to go wide open on planting. Again, parts of the western Corn Belt struggling very much with moisture. They need a whole lot more, and the flooding threat's going to continue here. But I told you earlier, the model's all over the place. That's the European 10-day. That's the AI 10-day. So European, AI 10-day. European again, GFS. European, GFS. Now take a look at this part of Montana. Look right there. GFS, 0.19 inches in the next 10 days. European 1.37. Major disparity in what they're predicting. I do want to take note, though, of these dry areas again. Columbia Basin, Great Basin, Snake River Valley. But there's the moisture that's possibly coming into Montana. Then, the probability of staying under a half inch for much of the Corn Belt here is very high. And with the fact I'm not talking about any frost coming through this area means we're going to just go quickly as these soil temperatures recover, especially in the eastern Corn Belt. But that's what I've got for the next 10 days on a probability of staying under a half inch. By week 2, remember, the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, that's when the system comes out so you can start to see it. It's in all of our models. That's the AI, and finally here is the GFS. While we watch the cutoff low that's moving through finally exit through the southeast. Still showing up a little bit wetter there. All right, let's get to the end of this. This is your next 7 days of frost risk, according to the National Digital Forecast Database. And as you look at the surface temperatures, this is this morning, or today, excuse me, you can see the evidence of our pattern, right? Low ridge in the middle. So crazy to think that Amarillo 57, Fargo 84. How often do you see that in terms of differences in temperatures? There's Tuesday, Wednesday of this week. See the influence of that cutoff low? My goodness. There's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I wanted to show you something else I've been kind of poking around with, okay? If we just come in here and I chose Fargo, we're going to look only at the European model. Notice that we're not expecting any precipitation at all until you get out there Saturday, Sunday. So when is this? This is like 17th, 18th. But I want to show you the temperatures. I've got in red the soil temps, and I have in black the air temperatures. We're not looking at a frost. And there's the chance in Fargo over the next 15 days of grabbing 225 GDDs. Okay, 225 GDDs. Wind is always going to be an issue, and you can see here that the sustained wind speeds for a while, especially as we get into this upcoming weekend, early next week, are going to be quite strong as the pressure drops off. But again, we're going to work on surfacing some of these new tools for you because they're kind of point and click anywhere you want. You know, I just drop a pin and it'll readjust the forecast and show you what's going on. So I just picked a spot, I don't know, just north of Indianapolis, having a look here at what's going on there too. So I'll work on it. We'll get it out there for you all to use. But right now, let's get on with the rest of this. Our temperature matrix continues to show us warmth, right? But we've struggled, right? If I showed you 15 or 10 days ago this forecast for the next 5 days, it's much colder here than was originally predicted. What I don't see, though, in these longer range forecasts is any major intrusions of really cold air. And neither does NOAA. This is their outlook for week 3, week 4. That's the second half of May. I tell you, I buy the temperature, but I don't think that any of us are going to get the precipitation right. There are just no strong signals at all. I mean, take a look at this. We talked last week about the PMM. What's La Nina doing? What's the MJO doing? We just don't have strong signals right now. And that's why when I show you the full outlook of May 12th through June 12th, and it looks something like wet Great Lakes, wet Canadian Prairie, and dry Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. Some of you right now are probably just raised your hands to the sky like, thank God, we're going to stop the rain. But I have big questions on this that Matt and I are going to try to answer all week. Now, Matt's got a fun video tomorrow for you because today's May 5th. And therefore, tonight, we're going to get the new European long-range data, and he's going to get to share that with you, and we'll take a look at some of the new ideas there. I'll follow it up on Wednesday with some additional discussion, but I'm looking forward to Matt's interpretation of that tomorrow. So that gets me just to one last thing, some global outlook. Now, do you remember a long time ago in this video when I showed you the pattern across Europe? There's the risk right in through here of overnight lows dropping into the 30s in Fahrenheit. And I think we could see a frost event in parts of Poland, Belarus, and this part of Ukraine. Those are the 3 countries I've kind of circled in through here. Outside of that, you can just see the temperatures around the rest of the world. And if we come back and just take a quick look on our site here at precipitation, this is what things look like globally. The monsoon has done its kind of natural slowdown here. Heavier rain still down south, but just take a quick look globally at where our moisture is. All right, guys, that was a lot this morning, but just several things floating around my head over the weekend, especially watching these model skills just fall off. But I'm going to stop it there. I'll talk to you again Wednesday. Matt will pick up with you tomorrow. Thanks.